Alright. Yo guys, what's going on? Bob and Jagro27 here as always, and today I'm joined with a special guest. Kawaii Kitty Cat loves yarn, yay!
Hi.
Yeah, there she is. So if you don't know what I'm doing something special for you guys. So if you guys email me over at briankroberts43@gmail.com, you can add me on Google Hangouts. Now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be making a giant group chat where I'm gonna be calling a lot of you people, and this was her idea. So go subscribe to this woman because she brought it up or whatever. But my voice has gotten a little better over this day-ish thing. I don't know. It's not really a day, but all day. I'm just gonna shut up. All right. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to everybody here. If you are watching, I can't tell because I don't have the chat up, but thank you for being here. If you want to be added, just tell me. Just say, add me or something. I don't know, and I'll go ahead and add you. Piano song of the day right here. If you can tell me what song that is, you get a shout out. So do it. And you can't do it, Kawhi, because you already know what it is. Alright, we got Zombie Gaming. We got FaZe Debrino, and we got Charlie Poi. Charlie, is that you from the thingamababa? Marissa's here. Thank you, Marissa, for being here. It means a lot. I know that you don't want to be here, but you are because Jonah makes you. But that's cool anyway. Yeah, so...
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, I'm joined with, like I said, Kawaii, Kitty Cat.
Hi.
You know, you want to go? You want to go?
Why?
If you know what that reference is, tell me in the chat. I would love to know. All right, and so, Marissa got it.
Why?
Do you want to shout out Marissa? Because that was correct.
Oh my god. I'm
But
just waiting for
Charlie,
my mom to get here. Stop.
Charlie, is that you from the multiplayer piano? If it is, then that's cool. FaZe Dorino says, "Why did you take away my mod privileges?" Then because I had too many mods. I'll give it back to you though. It's you, awesome Charlie. Nice to have you in the stream. Nice to have you on the channel and stuff. So tell me if you want to be added to this group chat. And after the video's done, I'm gonna record a video with you guys. It'd be pretty cool. Well, I'll be talking and stuff, and it'd be cool. So yeah, nice to have all you beautiful people in the stream. I know it's lagging a little bit, so I'm sorry for that, but yeah. Marissa says she's good. She doesn't want to shout out. Alright, you've been here, thank you for being here, Zombie, it means a lot. If you want to be added to the group chat thingy, then just tell me. You're welcome, FaZe Debrino. When I saw it, I came, thank you for coming yet again. Where my of status? I'm not sure what you mean. $3 a.m. there, oh my gosh. That is crazy. It's 9 p.m. here. That's crazy.
Angel.
So, 3 a.m. Yeah, she's in France, I think. Well, not 9:01 here. Not really. That's how time zones work. Halloween. Is it just Halloween? Somebody requested the song Halloween. No, the Halloween theme, like the ba da ba ba. Alright. Sorry guys, I was texting running from astronauts. If you know that guy, then tell me in the comments. Oh, you're a guy? You're a guy. Are you still there, kitty? Yeah. Alright. I didn't know you were a guy because your name's Charlie, but then again, I'm sorry for judging your gender. I'm sure, just don't get triggered. I'm sorry. Where's your mod status? I didn't give you it because you cursed and did all this stuff. Bodie, what's going on, dude? I haven't talked to you in like a couple months. And then before that, it was a couple years. So nice to have you here, dude. I'm glad you're watching the live streams. That's crazy. Right now, I'm just asking you guys if you want to be added to a live kind of chat. We have Kawaii Kitty Cat here.
Hi.
So yeah, we have her. And then if you guys want to, you can join. And I'll add you and stuff. And it'll be awesome. You will be able to talk to each other and make videos. Awesome. Yo, what's going on, dude? No Cut says sup. Nice to have you here, No Cut. Bodie says what's up. Nothing much, dude. I'm just chilling, playing piano and talking. But I'm talking to her, so that's cool. I don't get triggered with that. Haha, it's okay. Alright, my bad, by the way. But, Alright, if you want to join, then email me over at briankroberts43@gmail.com with your email. Okay, that's all you have to do. And I'll add you to a Hangouts chat where all you guys can chat, with each other during the day and stuff. And we can call whenever we want to. So yeah, just email me there. If I already have you, then don't email or anything. I have a couple people already, but Bodie, yeah, what's up, dude? You said Joker. Nice to have you here. Zintoic said, hey, what's going on, dude? Nice to have you here. Flaming Demon, nice to have you here. Can I call you on Hangouts? Go ahead and add me, dude. Do you ever just want to buy some peanut butter, put it in a sleeping bag, and pretend? Okay. No. Pretend you're a fetus. Is that what it feels like? Feels like you're in peanut butter? Yeah. Just
Anyone ask that?
where you can find my email on my about page of my YouTube channel. Do you love Ocean Liner? I'm not sure what you mean by that. What is Ocean Liner?
Yeah, I don't even know that either.
What's my Gmail? It's on my about page.
Gmail? The way he said it. It's like, what's you Gmail?
What's your Gmail? No, I'm not Gmail. No, I'm just kidding. What's your name again? Type it in chat, please.
You said it wrong. What's you Gmail?
Brian.
I've been watching too many of those weird videos like that.
Okay, add me there. Or email me with your email. Alright, you want me to play Rap God? Bodie, alright, I'll try my best. I was gonna play Halloween though, so let me play that first.
Can they hear me?
Yeah, they can hear you.
Awesome!
I just put my email in chat, Flaming. Just search up that right there, and I'll get all you guys' requests.
Where the heck is my mom? Where the heck? And my phone is freaking dying. Ah! Oh, man.
Feel free to hang up if it's gonna die.
I'm just walking up and down the sidewalk, waiting for my mom to get here. Hi. This music is actually going pretty well. I'm feeling right now.
Well, you can hear constant laughing over that, but that's okay. I'm gonna turn her down a little bit. Her laugh is copyrighted, so I can't feature it in the video. And then we have Rap God. You're a cringy 10-year-old kid. Well, nice to have you here. Anyway, thank you. Did you know that the toenails include all 9 essential amino acids? No, I did not. And I'm kind of weirded out that you know that. So, but then again, you could be a biology teacher. Nobody knows. I'm sorry I'm late, but who is this in the background? This is Kawaii Kitty. Kawaii Kitty, will you post a message if you're still in the stream? If you are, then they need to go subscribe to you. This is her.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
She said hoy, so go sub to her for being part of the people of America. Alright, we got one message from Zyntwick already. I saw that, Zyntwick.
Who wants to hear me do a Pikachu impression?
Nobody, I'm muting you. I'm just kidding. I'll turn it back up.
Awesome. Yay.
Can I tell you my
I can do
GMAT?
a pretty good Pikachu impression. But it's not that good, actually. You know, I'll just meow.
Is there a cat? There we go. Thank you, Zyntwick, for putting that. I was trying to type it, but...
It's me. Where's my mom?
She left you for dead.
But then I wouldn't be able to see your live stream because my phone is dying. And I don't have a portable charger.
Go find my Don't Break Down video and react to it on my channel. I only react to people's videos if they are about me. So yeah. You want to do your Pikachu impression or no?
Sure.
Hee hee hee. Alright.
I just tried to spin and I failed.
We got
I
one
am
from...
very weird and very random.
We got one from No Cut. I didn't get one from Sparkling Chihuahua. I think I was already in a chat with you. Because I see Flaming Demon on here already. So I'll go ahead and add you later to it on the Flaming Demon one.
Yeah, what the heck? Where is my mother?
I don't
Mother,
know.
Where are you?
You want to tell your exact location for people to snipe you?
What?
Don't say anything.
I'm just gonna pretend that I did not hear that because I am very befuddled.
By the way, can you check my video I just posted today on my channel? Like I said, I will check it out, sure. But if you want me to review a video, like if you want me to react to it on the channel and leave a link or whatever, then you have to make it about me, like roasting me. That's what somebody did. That was pretty cool.
Boy, are you kidding?
What?
I would never roast you. You're too cool for that.
Somebody already roasted me.
Hey, there's my roast. You are way too cool for roasting.
Well, what am I supposed to be? Undercooked? I don't know.
No, I don't do mean roasting. I do like super nice ones. That's it.
You're so nice that nice isn't a word. I don't know. That's not even a pun, by the way.
That's so sweet.
I don't see your message, Flaming Demon. I don't see it. Oh, Bodhi wanted me to do Rap God. There we go. I can't do it whatsoever because I'm awful.
What? I don't know. She's not answering her text at all. Yeah, it's not. But it's okay. A minivan.
I'm gonna turn down your audio so people don't hear it. Alright. Rap God, here we are. Just for you people. Alright. No, I muted it. Most of it, at least. I can't play it. I'm sorry, guys. Have you got it now? No, I didn't get it yet. Can I be in your call? Only one person at a time. But I will end up being doing videos like with all you guys at the same time, so that'd be cool.
Oh, she's calling.
What? Alright, I'll go ahead and add you, Chihuahua, I'm adding you right now. Flaming Demon Game Reviews and more. I already had that, dude. So I invited you. You're welcome. I just did, so don't worry. Are you still there? Can you please pay 1,000 years? Yes, I can. I think she hung up. Yeah, so I'm just gonna hang up as well. Call me. Who wants me to call them first? First person to put the number 87.5 gets it. But I will play 1,000 years right now. That's one of the songs that I'm okay with. Ish. It's all good, Kawhi. It's all good. Can I call you? You have to answer the questions. All right, no cut. You answered it first, but you have been in a podcast before, so I'm gonna go ahead and add Xynotech just because he hasn't been in one before, and you know. No, I'll add you, dude. Don't worry. Also, if you want more podcasts, tell me. They do really well. We had like 100 views on it. Sorry. Hold on. That's the best you're gonna get. Can my be next, lol? Maybe. Somebody unsubbed. Alright. Evie's right here. Alright. Thank you for loving it. That means a lot. If you loved it, then like the stream. It means a lot as well. Kitty Cat loves yarn, says ... What'd you say ... for? Yes, Kitty Cat? do Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. I don't know why, but it popped in my head. I don't know why, but I think I have a dog. Not sure what you mean there. You just liked. Thank you so much for liking. That was like death metal, I think. So. All of Me by John Legend. Running from Astronauts, you're here. Thank you so much for being here. I should be working on my project, but I already finished some of it, so that's good. Mackenzie, if you're watching, I finished most of it. Wink, wink. I can try All of Me. Like I said, I'm not guaranteeing it's gonna be good. See, if you want a piano player that can just bring it up like as soon as you say it, go to Player Piano's YouTube channel. They're awesome. Alright, I'm gonna try my best. It lagged. Hold on. I love your videos. Astro's videos are amazing. There we go. That's the best I can do, I think. Can I join a call with you later? I'm Poppin'. Hello. Call him Joker or Brian. No, call me Poppin'. Call me Poppin'. Can you play We Don't Talk Anymore? Yes. It was good. Thank you. Try. Speaking of Astro's videos, he just filmed a tour of his totally awesome Super Cool studio that he built over summer, and the video will be uploaded tomorrow. I want to quit it so bad after reading it. QTCH. Confused. Yeah, feel free to shout your own channels out. Except don't say go to my video right now. After the stream or something like that. So, yeah. I'm glad you guys liked it. Nice to have you, Poppin' Arrow. I joined the NMVP lobby today like a couple times. So we just didn't, I don't know, I like commented. I guess you guys didn't see him, but I was trying to talk to you, so I can't get on Facebook at school though, so that's why. Alright. Pokemon Go song. And then it's We Don't Talk Anymore. I play Pokemon Go every day. I play Pokemon Go. I play Pokemon Go every day. I play Pokemon Go. There we go. Alright, We Don't Talk Anymore. We Don't Talk Anymore. That's a good song request, honestly. If you guys aren't subscribed, liked, or anything like that, then comment. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. Heart and Soul. There you go. What instrument do you want, Papa Nairo? You want the ambulance? I know you did. Hold on, I gotta get an instrument for Auro. For the Heart and Soul. Pinky, while he's picking an instrument, pick an instrument for the Little Do You Know. Lead. See how fast we can go. If that's not the one you meant, I have Pop Lead, by the way. I'll play that. And I think I have another lead. Metal Lead. I think you want Metal Lead. Pinky, you gotta pick an instrument. Just say piano or any other instrument. Marimba, anything like that. This is what the marimba sounds like. Little Do You Know, easy piano. I've actually never heard of that song. Little Did You Know. Little Do You Know? Yeah, Little Do You Know. Alex and Sierra? Are you guys tired? Are you tired of the stream and you're just bored? Well, you know, a good way to fix that is to get yourself some Vital Energy mints. These mints, 2 of them equal 1 cup of coffee. They're portable. They can stick in your pocket. They're so great. They are absolutely amazing. I need to turn this down because I'm really loud. But they're only $5 a tin, and for 6 tins, they're $20, and for like 250 mints, they're only $30. And if you use the code POPIN at checkout, you get an extra 10% off. So that's awesome. Are you on piano? I got piano for you. I got piano. So let's get into this. Little do you know, that looks hard. I'll try my best. I'll just let it play because no, I'm not. But listen to Poppin. Don't doubt him. He don't lie. I purchased them without his code. They're good. Without my code? Why didn't you use my code? You would have got 10% off. I would have got 10% off. No, I'm just kidding. I would have though. But use the code capital P, lowercase o, capital P-I-N at checkout to get some of these. They have wintergreen, spearmint, all that kind of stuff. And they are my sponsor, as seen over there in the top left-hand corner of the screen. Wrong way, that one. So yeah. Any other song request? I'm sure we have some. Arrow, you got one? I can also recommend balls. They're like Vita, except not really. They're like caffeinated, so they pop in your mouth, and they're so cool. They sent me a couple free tins and other free stuff, but I don't have to review them. It's weird. Like, I tried to get a sponsorship with them, but they were like, no, we're just gonna send you a whole box full of stuff, but you don't have to do anything with it. So stupid. Luis Garcia, play White Strips. First, let me see what that is, because you're new to the channel. And it probably has something to do with Hitler. White Stripes. Seven Nation Army. Alright. It's good. Don't worry. Bad app. No, I don't want the Black Midi version. Gotta go. Call me at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Well, 7 for you. Okay. Okay, can we call please? The video is being weird. After this song. What instrument? What instrument? I'm just gonna go with lead. Metal lead. Synthetic lead. I'm just gonna go with synthetic lead for now. Freaking ad. This is hard, dude. My bad, guys. If the audio comes through weird, just tell me. I'll add you later, okay? Metal lead. Well, there's that. Ish. It was decent enough. Any more song requests? It looks like we're about to end anyway, so. Oh. You like my glasses, guys? I like them. They're really nice. I'm from the future. The new Google Glass, except they're headphones. All right. Sorry for that. 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 Also, Alro, what times are you in the Poppin' Crew lobby? Sick glasses, I know, they look awesome. My tongue's blue. Ah. Can you see my piano or keyboard? Yes, you can. I'm gonna use Pablo lead. Or metal lead. Or synthetic lead, my bad. Also, if you're not subscribed, make sure you get subscribed. Because I love subscribers. Alright, you said cool. Is that piano 61 keys or 88 keys? Oh, wait, octaves. Somebody told me that. Alright. Alright. Alright, 13. 26. 39. 52 keys. Yeah, it's a bad keyboard. It doesn't have a MIDI input. It's pretty cheap, so. Yeah, that was like one of the first songs I learned. At least you have something to start out with. Yeah, it's okay. It's 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 something. Definitely, it's something. The keys are a little too small for my fingers, as you could probably tell. Like my finger takes up the entire key, and then see, look, I can't put like the actual chord on it, which kind of stinks unless they're all white keys. So. Can you call me now? No, not until after the stream's done, and it's almost done anyway, so you can call me in a minute. Thank you for subscribing, Prime Art Online Piano Covers. I'll be sure to watching your channel, and I'm going to go ahead and subscribe right now because that sounds really awesome if you do actual piano covers. I'm interested in that kind of stuff, so you came to the right stream. I'll try to have fun with all my subscribers. It doesn't work all the time. Let's see how many subscribers you have. Probably like 1,000 or so. If not, then you can get a shout out. If you have less than 1,000, you can get a shout out. I'm sure you have more though. If it's Prime Art Online, you have plenty, I'm sure. 8? No, if you actually have a cover on here. You have covers. This is ending. No. Why do you only have 8 subscribers? Control C that. Alright. Everybody subscribe to this mail. Okay? I'm gonna spam his link even more. Like. Oh my gosh. Here, listen to it with me, guys. This is him playing, I think. Subscribe. Subscribe, I'm subscribed. And I will be subscribed for a long time, brother. Oh, I have to turn on notification twos. I gotta turn on those notifications so I get notified of every single video, which all of you guys should do as well. Because on my channel and his channel, because YouTube doesn't get notified to people who I don't know. So good. I'm so glad you came to the channel. Feel free to come to the streams every once in a while. I love having you people here. Not just you people, but you beasts. Because that was Beauty and the Beast. I was trying to make a pun. I'm not very funny though, so. I love the panda tooth as well. You have a good taste there. You better not growl at me, woman. Yeah, you definitely subbed. It's honestly so much work. You only get like 60 views. I'm so sorry. Or 50 views on that one, but 5 days ago. It's not bad, but you deserve way more, dude. You deserve way more. That's what I do, kind of. I try to make people happy. And I'm guessing you subbed and turned on the bell. So, I'm just trying to get it out there a little bit. You'll stay in tune? Awesome. Thank you, dude. Thank you so much. I try to make entertaining content. Then again, it's hard to do that. Kawaii, that's what happens. That's what happens. You're gonna live stream tomorrow? What time? The same time that I'm live streaming? Because I'm live streaming tomorrow. And if we do a raid, oh my gosh. We can get you tons of new viewers, tons of new likes, stuff like that. That would be so cool. Tell me what time, and I'm in Eastern Standard Time. So right now it's 9:57 p.m. here. So if you'll convert to my time, I'll definitely raid you then. And I will watch your stream as well. Kawhi, I already told you what state I lived in. You have any other song requests? Prime Arts Piano. You get more views than I ever will. You don't know that. You might get tons of views. Especially on that Gur video. You wanna go? You wanna go? I can like 4-ish? Till when? We could collab or something, dude. That'd be so cool. Email me right now if you want to, and I will. I'll have your email, and I'll be able to contact you and stuff. Oh, wait, your email's right there. Rattuven2025. Well, I'm glad I found you, dude. You find so many people on these streams. Just like Kawaii Kitty Cat, Kitty Cat. Go right ahead, Kawhi. Just ask a question. If you guys have questions, just shoot. The most you've ever got was 16. Well, good luck on that. The most I got on my first video was like 8, maybe? Like after a month. Now I get like 30 in a day. So it progresses, trust me. No. I lost my cord. Tell me if you want to see a specific video and or cover or just anything. Tell me what you want to see next. In around 4:35. I get home at 4:30. If you'll stream till 5:30, I can definitely raid you. So if you want to do that, then that'll work. Any classical songs? Not really. I don't know many old songs. you play Minecraft? I'm a gamer. Yes. Not often. The only times is whenever I'm playing on my Xbox 360 with my cousins. Or, when I'm really bored. But I don't play it all the time, so I have it on computer and Xbox 360. I can't really run it on my computer though. Alright. Can you do 5? I might be able to raise you at 5. Or can you stream it later than whenever you get back from piano lessons? Astro, are you still in the stream? No Cut, are you still in the stream? Masky has been missing streams. If we can get one more sub to 845 subs, that would make my night. See this right here? My sister got this for me whenever I was in Texas, cause yeah, and it was really cool. Has my name on it. I keep it right here, along with my YouTube play button. Can't really see it. It would have turned out good if I didn't mess up the play button. Like, it's all rounded and smooth and like sanded and everything, and like it actually doesn't look that bad, and it's like wood and stuff. But then I messed the crap out of this, so it ruined that project. Just know the stream is lagging a lot, so I don't get your guys' messages until like a couple minutes after. Like maybe a minute after I say it, you guys respond, so just know. I'm gonna see how many subscribers we got him now. I bet he's at 10 or more. I have to see. If we didn't get him to 11, I'm gonna be disappointed. Can we do a collab video with Minecraft? Maybe. Sounds cool. Maybe one day. Alright, I'm putting him up there. See, what did we get him to? 13! Oh my gosh. We got you to 13 subs, dude. High five through the camera, honestly. Congratulations on 13 subs. I didn't think we'd get you up that much. Alright, that's fine. I don't start streaming till late, but I'll do an exception for you. I'm surprised you got 13 subs, dude. Congratulations yet again. 5 subscribers within minutes. Come to the streams. You'll get some shout outs and stuff like that. And we'll get you some subs and people will watch your videos, I hope. I'm definitely, like, tonight, whenever I'm bored and I wake up out of nowhere because I'm sick, I'm going to watch some covers. Especially, I'm keeping my eye on that Let It Go one right there. That looks quite interesting. And then the Megalovania, definitely. That's one of my favorites. Dude. And then the Crossing Field. Oh my gosh. Too good. Too good. But congrats on 13 subs. If any of you guys want to sub to him, links are going to be in the chat once more time. So go do that. I'm about to end because it's time for me to end. And, well, we might just have to say, Poppin' went poopin', you know? No, I have to go to bed, but yeah, and I have to take my medicine because I didn't take it earlier, and I feel stupid. Don't worry, I'm not taking medicine. I'm taking Vital Energy Mints. If you want these mints, there's a link down below in the stream. If you use code Poppin' at checkout, then you will be able to get 10% off a purchase. They have wintergreen, spearmint, all that kind of stuff. And we have done it before. It's awesome. It tastes amazing. First, congrats on 10 subs. And if we get you to 15 subs, that'd be absolutely amazing as well. But, I mean, you deserve it, honestly. Like, who, like, you definitely deserve it. So, congrats on that. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream, so I hope you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful Friday tomorrow, or if it's already Friday where you are, then happy Friday. If it's still Thursday, then happy Thursday. Take my medicine because I didn't take it earlier, and I feel stupid. Don't worry, I'm not taking medicine. I'm taking Vital Energy meds. If you want these meds, there's a link down below in the stream. You just go pop in at checkout, and you will be able to get 10% off the purchase. They have wintergreen, spearmint, all that kind of stuff. And we have done it before. It's awesome. It tastes amazing. First, congrats on